having to switch things around super quick every single day. Something new is like changing and evolving, and it's really dynamic, which I actually kind of like to a certain level. But there is some like uncertainty in everything that we're doing. So you just got to take it day by day, I guess. But like you said, Marcus, our day to day, I mean, we're really lucky, right? We're super fortunate that we're able to do our work in a distributed manner, and things can still run pretty smoothly. And so we are super fortunate in that regard, which is really cool. It's just, I guess, being super empathetic and compassionate about the situation with others, because you literally just don't know what people are going through now. Like it's just another layer of I guess emotion and a whole bunch of stuff wrapped in and bundled. And so people are just trying to, I guess, just navigate it. And I'm actually interested to hear how you've been finding working. Yeah, I mean, PK has grown so much since since you all started. And so like I'm curious to find out how this transition has been for you in terms of just operating the team and keeping everybody aligned and motivated.
Yeah, it's obviously by far been an easy journey, probably both like actively but probably emotionally as well. I think we'd all agree. I think the biggest thing is like you said earlier, it's we're fortunate to be in a business that can work remotely, like quite easily, very well. Sort of the way that we work, we're set up to be working remotely. So that side of things, people can still do their jobs from home, which is great. What we're probably not designed to do is work from home for this amount of time, and that's where you notice things. There's the stress on ways of working, because no one likes to be locked indoors all of the time. As much as these Zoom calls are great and they allow us to keep being effective and efficient, we miss human contact. We all miss being able to just jump in a meeting room and chuck something on the whiteboard and discuss a problem. Like we could do that on Zoom, but it will take probably 3-4 times the amount of time it would if you just jumped into a room. So I think we've been on that journey. I think that the whole team have been fantastic. From the client point of view, I think we've got a mix. Some of our clients have been hit quite hard, and obviously it's based on the industries they work in. Some have been hit quite hard, and that's affected the marketing that they can do. Others have been fortunate enough that they haven't really been affected in that way, and that's directly impacted sort of our relationship with them. Some people have carried on marketing, albeit have changed the messaging, and that's probably one thing we've been working on with a lot of our clients is if they can carry on talking to their customers, because some people they can't carry on selling their products purely because the supply chain has stopped, or they've been physically told to close in one case, but people can still market. It's just we've been spending a lot of time talking to people about how they market to people, and that's what I think you said around sort of being empathetic to how people are feeling. Brands have to play that same as well. Like we have to understand that yes, people will still want to buy clothes, or they want to work from home, so they want to get a new tracksuit. Like people will still want to do that, but people don't want to just have deals rammed in their faces. They don't expect businesses to just ignore the current situation and pretend that nothing's going on. Like we're all in this together. So it's been an interesting kind of journey, but emotionally, obviously, I think the three of us would say that obviously it sucks. Like we had some really great pace, and the people we were working with, we were on a really, really great trajectory for this year, and that part of it sucks. But we were talking on WhatsApp earlier and sending some sort of images around, like in a year, 2-3 years time, we'll look back at this and it will just be a blip. And one thing's for sure is we would have learned a heck of a lot throughout this chapter, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm curious, how's things with, I mean, Tutorbloc? Like right now,
Mm.
homeschooling is the thing, right? Is the like how what's like just briefly,
Yeah.
briefly talk to us about Tutorbloc, but then what I guess we're really interested in is what's changed during this current period, like what's going on for that particular market.
Yeah, great question, man. So, in a nutshell, Tutorbloc is an operating system for on-demand personalized learning and teaching. Simple way of really explaining it. Um, Parents can connect with tutors, tutors can operate and run their businesses, and we've built a mobile application that allows all this to happen. It's on Apple iOS at the moment. We'll soon be expanding to Android, etc. And it's built on a layer of trust. So all of our tutors have to go through a verification process. They have to have an enhanced DBS certificate. They have to do an ID check, and we have to check their qualifications. And we've built technology around that that allows that to happen within minutes, which is really cool. And then we'll build the product from the ground up based on design principles. So it's super easy to use and navigate, and um, it's intuitive. It's really, you can get your head around it super quick. Um, some people have like kind of described it as Uber for tutoring. That's like a simple way to think about it. And it's got a similar model, but then we've built other tools on top of that to manage the relationship post booking, because that was like one of the biggest things in the industry, is that a lot of parents and tutors are meeting on such online directories and through other agencies, but then after that first after they've been connected, they then tend to leave those kind of platforms because they provide no value post relationship. And also they charge quite a significant percentage commission, and so tutors don't really have an incentive to continue operating on those platforms, and so for all those reasons they leave. And then the biggest problem then becomes is tutors are then having to manually manage their relationships with their clients, and that for any tutor they know that's really painful, and it's long and it's laborious and it requires so much time. And again, so we built technology around that to basically automate it, so they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, and they can just simply focus on teaching. And similarly with payments, payments, tutors never really get paid on time if they're dealing with cash, or if they're getting paid in advance and never gets transferred on time. And similarly with parents, you often see a lot of parents booking tutors, giving them £400 cash in advance to book 10 lessons, and then tutors just, you don't hear from them again. And so there's so many problems in the space. And so we decided, you know what, we've been all tutors. I mean, I've been tutoring mathematics for the last 5 years. And I guess when you build a product that you want to use, it's so easy to contextualize it and know all of the problems to solve for. And that's really what's helped us in this whole process and driven our methodology and strategy, because we know what the problems are. I was a student at what time, and I've been a tutor as well. And so it's very easy to scratch your own itch basically and create an end-to-end product that facilitates the entire value chain. And so what we're seeing now is really interesting, because as you said, Luke, schools have closed and there's no exams. 2020, zero exam. Which I don't know about you guys, but how would you feel if you were in school right now and exams were cancelled? Would you be super excited, or would you be down? What we've built is a tool that really allows them to book a private tutor within minutes. You just basically create an account and put in the subject that you need help with and when you're available, and then it matches you based on that availability criteria to two tutors. And because now everything's moved online, parents can be matched with tutors in Edinburgh, Manchester, Bristol, anywhere.
Right.
And people are doing their lessons over Zoom as well, which is pretty cool. And so that transition for tutors hasn't been too difficult because they often do tutor online. So in that
Mhm.
regard, it's been pretty smooth. It's just now educating parents of the value of having extra support from a private tutor so their child doesn't fall behind. Because
And
you can imagine, like, imagine we come back in September, if schools do open in September, you're going to have students who had all the support in the world, and you're going to have those who didn't have that much support, and we're all going to be at different levels, even though we're all taking GCSEs. And so
yeah,
that's going to be really interesting as well.
I think that's such a great point because you're right. We all I was going to say it earlier when we were talking about sort of like agency world, like our work, like how everyone's in their own little sort of micro climates, aren't they? Right now, some
Yeah,
people have very young kids. Some people have school age kids, so they're having to do the homeschooling. Some people have no kids. Some people are working. Some people aren't working. Some people work from home. You've got essential workers that are still cracking on as normal, like heroes. So there's so many different areas. But I think on that point around schooling, is that definitely normally it's probably not the right way of saying it, like a level playing field because everyone goes to school and they get taught
yeah,
in the same class with the same teacher. Whereas you're right now, the level of homeschooling people are getting is going to be very dependent on the situation that family is in. And I think that's such a great point that some people just because they can't won't be able to do the same level of homeschooling as the next family. So
yeah,
it is going to bring I think it's just brought education so
mhm,
much closer to the parent again.
yeah,
I'm not a parent, but listening to interviews of people that are talking about the situation of what it's like to homeschool, pretty much everyone has said like it's changed so much from when they learned at school. Or
yeah,
you'll hear like celebrities say, "Oh, I'm rubbish at homeschooling." I think it's brought education right back into the eyes of parents, which I think will be in the long run, especially for your business. Is I think people will almost have a newfound respect for teaching,
yeah,
and notably sort of the tutoring market is how can they get more help for their kids. So I guess the question for you, Mercurius, would be like, do you think this will be a short term thing, or do you think there will be a genuine like habit change and people will really see the need and the added benefit for tutors and the like?
yeah. Great question, man. Um, so I mean, just taking a step back globally, tutoring has exploded. Like across every metric, it's just exploded. Um, and that trend, we were actually already on that positive increase trend uh, pre-corona.
Right.
And so the industry was going at a compound annual growth rate of close to 8% year on year. Um, and so it's a massive market. And here in the UK, it's estimated to be worth over £6 billion. So it's huge. But the crazy part is it's unregulated, right? So we actually really don't know if those numbers are accurate or not, because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is dealt with in person and people are just trading by cash in hand, for example. And so the trend has always been increasing. I think what this period has done or is doing is it's accelerating the adoption of behavior change. And I think that's actually just across all industries. I mean, how
Yeah.
many people now are having to do their shopping online, which they've probably never done before, right?
Yeah.
How many people are doing FaceTimes with their family members, which they've never done before, you know? And so I think it's what this has done is it's just accelerated, um, behavior change. And I think in the education space, schools are realizing that they have to do more online learning, um, and teachers are realizing that teaching 30 kids is a challenge, and they don't all get the personalized support that they want to deliver. And parents are also realizing that you know, their kids want to not only, you know, excel in the core subjects, but they also want to explore different paths and explore their curiosities. Like a lot of people we're seeing now as well, you know, find a private tutor to start learning an instrument, for example, you
That's
know,
very cool.
or like learn another language. And I think those things are quite critical to the development of just children in general.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting the support you are in school because of X, Y, Z reason, a private tutor is always going to be the second best option to a certain
Yeah.
degree. Um, we saw that, you know, using online materials and different apps and resources, they're all great, but nothing can supplement the one-to-one environment and that closed structure that allows that tutor to really just tailor the work to that child.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that's going to go. If anything, it's going to keep growing even faster. And I think this time it's been an opportunity for schools, parents, and you know, tutors to all realize the power of this world and what online tutoring can actually do. And so I think it's going to continue, man. And I also believe that, and there's a gap that's missing, by the way. So schools don't talk to tutors, which is a massive thing that we've been talking about internally for such a long time now. And it's something that we're going to be solving for. It's part of our roadmap and vision of the company, really, because there's a huge mismatch of information there. Because if a tutor is helping X child with their maths or whatever, but then the school doesn't know about the progress that's happening outside the classroom, then you can see things are going to get repeated. They're going to be either left behind or not looked after, and it just doesn't make sense that these parties are not communicating.
Do you think historically they're almost seen, and I'm being a bit dramatic, but do you think they're seen as the enemy, sort of like tutors? Like what is the relationship between
Yeah.
teachers and tutors? Is it purely because they just don't talk, or is it there is some kind of sort of dynamic that's not quite right?
I love this question, man, because tutoring, it's funny. It's actually called shadow schooling. That's what it's known in the industry. Because,
That's cool.
yeah, tutors are kind of looked at as a shame product almost, if you will. You know, they're like, oh, you need a tutor? Just
Right.
quite interesting, the view that like some people have about it. But then they realize that, you know what, most of these tutors are actually teachers. So like a statistic that blew my mind when I was doing my research was 43% of state school teachers privately tutor on the side. Like that's crazy.
That's
Um,
huge. Yeah.
and so most of these tutors, a lot of them are actually tutors. And so I think this time as well is going to hopefully eradicate that negative connotation attached to it, because I honestly think that tutors are unsung heroes in some moments. Like there's so many kids that, you know, actually get into universities, into colleges because of a tutor. And it's not because, you know, they're more privileged and they have the opportunity to actually afford a tutor. It's just because the style of learning that teacher in their math class just doesn't resonate with them, and they need somebody to explain the problem in a little bit a different way. And
No,
so
I think that's fascinating. I've never really, that last little bit you were just talking about, I never really thought about it like that, but it makes complete sense. And I think bringing those two worlds closer together will have a huge impact. And the first bit that comes to my mind is similar to like a gym and personal trainers, right?
hmm,
How you've got like that's like the gym not being happy that people are being PTs, and just because you have a gym membership doesn't necessarily mean you don't need someone to treat you slightly different, or for the approach to be different, or to put you on a different program. Like plenty of people have a gym membership, it's like the school, but then they'll need that extra push with a PT, right? And I don't know enough about that industry to know whether how that dynamic works between PTs and gyms, whether it's a similar sort of approach. to teaching or schools and tutors, but it's fascinating to know more about that process, and it sounds like solving that problem would be hugely beneficial to the pupil.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think it's largely because I guess anybody can become a tutor, but in order to become a teacher, you have to have, you know, a PGC, you have to have a QTS. There's like so many qualifications that you need to actually take and pass in order to become a qualified teacher. However, anybody can call themselves a tutor. And that's why it was really important for us to add in that layer of protection and that layer of trust through our verification process, to almost add a little bit of professionalism to the profession. And I think over time as well, there's nothing like stopping us from creating like a Tutorbloc Academy, for example, where we train and teach our tutors to gain those teaching qualifications if they want to. And that could be really interesting, because then you can see a world where we collaborate with governments, and in moments like this, when there's a teacher shortage or there's a need for extra support, we've got qualified tutors who are teachers that can, you know, go out and help where needed.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. It's yeah, to be fair, this conversation really opened up my eyes to a lot of stuff. I think Reese has got a young boy, but is not at the schooling age yet. So none of us, or at least me, Marcus and Reese, have sort of hands-on experience other than our own education. But that was a while ago now. So it's interesting to just get an eye opener into like what is going on. Like I see my neighbours across the road, like they're homeschooling, but don't really have any idea really of what's going on behind the scenes. So it's good to just get an idea of the area really. And I think it's such a great point you made around sort of this trend was happening before coronavirus. Yep. So it's not just like it suddenly happened. There's been a huge growth area, but you make such a great point that this is just really speeding things up, and we'll come out the other side of all of this. And I think schooling in general will have, or I should say education in general, well, I think will have a very different, everyone will have a different outlook on it. Yep. Like I said earlier, it feels like it's been, a lot of things actually have been brought to the forefront throughout all of this, and it's forced everyone to sort of take a different look at it. But it's great that there's that bigger demand for you guys on the tutor front, like people to looking for it. And I'm sure that there'll be that increase in demand of the people looking for the tutors, albeit parents or young teenagers looking to do a new skill. Yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting ride, but it's a fantastic product. It sounds exciting.
Thanks, man.
And how about, like you mentioned on sort of, and this really is just, it's kind of outside of the day-to-day work bits, but we've done a couple of these now, and we always ask people, like, what are they doing to keep themselves focused, busy, happy? Like, what it is, like, what are you up to now? Like, what are you up to now?
I was actually going to ask a similar question, so it's fun that you asked. I think something that's really helped me is just sticking to my routine, right? Like, I'm in bed by like 9:30, 10, and I wake up at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I go for my run, right? And I'm still doing that. And the weather's been super nice recently, so that's been super fun. So I'm still sticking to my routine, and that's been paramount, to be quite honest with you, because that's the only certain thing in this uncertainty. You know what I mean? Like, I know tomorrow I'm going to run. That's not going to change. I know I'm going to wake up at this time. So that's kind of grounded me. I'm also reading a lot. Like, I used to always carry a book around with me, so that's still happening. Still reading. I actually just finished this book called Positioning.
Nice. Cool. Nice.
Actually, I've not read it. Book. It's an absolute classic, man. Highly recommend it, by the way. So just finished that, and I've just ordered another book called The Messy Middle. It's a business book. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
Yeah. Another interesting book, actually. It's about like building a company, and you get to a certain level where, you know, you've done so much. You went from like 0 to 1, but then it's like the next step of the process always gets a bit complicated and tough, and it's about managing your way through that next step in the process. So I've just bought that from Amazon a few days ago, so I'm just waiting for it to arrive, and then really just doing stuff like this and just checking in with my buddies, jumping on FaceTime with my parents, and eating healthy, man. And yeah, I think that's it really. How about you? What have you been doing, Marcus, Luke, Reese?
Similar, to be fair. Sorry, Reese, I think I interrupted you there.
It's hard.
No, similarly, I've keeping to routine. Like you said, I've tried to do as much as possible. I'm waking up a lot earlier, I think, because I'm sleeping less, just because I'm not using as much energy, which is one thing I'm not particularly happy with. But apart from that, I'm happy that I'm sticking to my routine. I'm reading a lot. I'm eating well as well. I'm seeing a lot of people like saying they're going to come out of this having put on weight, but I've found it a really good opportunity to sort of cook more, so I've got more time, so everything's a bit slower, right? So I feel like I'm eating better. I'm trying to exercise more, reading a lot, stay positive. Like you said, like spending a lot of time talking to friends. We're doing big family chats, which is funny. Like you said earlier, like we haven't done that before, right? We would never get on a conference call on a Saturday night with our family, but and also spoke to friends more. Like I've FaceTime friends that I would never FaceTime. Like asked them if they're okay when I probably wouldn't have asked them if they're okay. So just stuff like that, just trying to stick together really. Go on, Reese. Yours is probably a little bit more hectic than mine. I've only got myself and Susanna to look after.
Yeah, to be honest, similar to what you said though, Marcus, apart from chucking in a bomb of a 2-year-old that you can't take out or drop off to nursery. But no, same as that. I feel healthy, strong, trying to read. My wife has one day off a week, so today was that day. So today was like the perfect day. Got up at 6, read my book, had breakfast, started work. But yeah, it's just trying to like balance that. I think that's the hardest thing, is switching off. Like you said, Mario, is keeping like to a strict regime. And I think for me that is key to it. And trying to turn off Slack and WhatsApp of an evening. Is also like a top tip. I've learned to turn the notifications off of an evening.
That's
what about
great,
you,
man.
Luke?
No, I think I'm sort of a mixture of everything really. I think I'm enjoying time where I'm being probably more focused in certain areas. I think where parts of the business have sort of slowed down slightly, other areas we've picked up, like we've been able to focus on a lot of sort of like back office type things that get put on the list and we keep meaning to do them, but we can really focus on those sorts of things right now. Other than that, I think, like Marcus said, I've been doing lots of cooking. I enjoy that anyway, but I think it's just more time to be able to do that. I've been training a bit, probably not as much as I should do with all this spare time, but I've been training. But then just sort of just doing things that you don't always get time to do. And that's probably the biggest thing is we started off this chat sort of saying how whilst we're in a really crappy sort of current time, there's a lot of darkness and a lot of sadness, whereas actually if we have to stay positive, but by staying positive and looking at the silver linings, there's a lot of plus sides. Like you said, I think we're all individually, everyone does different things with that extra time, with the extra headspace, and I think when we all look back in years to come, I think that will be, I think we'll remember all of the plus sides more than we'll remember all of that. And I think there'll always be that remembrance of this really crazy time. But I think it is a once in a generation thing.
I think for me, Luke, as well, like it's sometimes you feel guilty for feeling happy, like, and it's such a terrible time now. And if you let your brain like run away with it, you won't sleep. But like for me, like some weekends, me and my wife and my son have generally had a nice time, and sometimes you feel guilty for that because you know how terrible some people are having it. And sometimes you just have to remember that it's okay to be happy in this sort of time. And that's what I keep telling ourselves, like, we have good days and bad days, and the good days you should feel happy.
You have to, you got to stay positive. Like we'll all go mad if not. Like it is getting to me now. Like staying at home. Like I'm kind of, before I was like, I don't mind staying at home. It's getting to the point now where I'm like, I could really do with like going out and seeing some friends. But you have to stay positive. Like we just got it, haven't we? for our own
Yeah.
mental health sake, and also just to keep like our companies going. Like everyone needs to sort of keep going, keep carrying on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Love that.
Keep calm and carry on. And that same applies for businesses, isn't it? I know we've fluttered between different conversations today, but like the overarching thing is that, like you just said, Marcus, businesses need to carry on. Marketing needs to carry on.
They do, yeah. I think the whole point, we've talked a lot about like marketing on these podcasts before, and this point about being empathetic to the situation, like, but not being scared of being in the situation. Like consumers are looking to brands for support still, and like you have to be aware of the situation. I think I heard a really good ad on the radio the other day. It's a bit of a random one. I've just thought of it from Quick Fix about their centres still being open for like emergencies, but the advert actually said like, but don't come here unless you really have to, and then it just gave 3 top tips of how you can look after your car at home. So they'd pay for that ad spot to do nothing other than tell people to stay away unless they have to, and then here's 3 bits of advice for how you can like keep your car up to scratch at home, which I thought was just, I think they nailed it, because they were helping people, they were being very empathetic to the situation and building up probably a bit of brand loyalty as well from it.
I like that.
No, 100%.
Yeah, it was really good.
Right. We've got the Zoom countdown. We're under a minute, so I just wanted to say, we're curious. Thanks so much for your time. Good to catch up.
Likewise.
Keep healthy.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Keep happy. Keep healthy, and good luck with everything at Tutorbloc. And I'm sure we'll be catching up soon.
Absolutely. Peace.
See ya.
Cheers,
Peace out,
man. Thanks,
buddy.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care.